Greetings. My name is Kim Lucas, and I serve as Bishop of the Episcopal Church in Colorado. I would like to thank the Faithful Thursday Coalition for the opportunity to address you at this time, and thank them for all the work that they are doing to make our communities more equitable, more just, and more safe. In the Episcopal Church, one of our organizing principles is that of the Great Commandment, that we love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength, and that we love our neighbor as ourselves. We hold this principle as we are baptized, and we vow that we will seek and serve Christ in all persons and respect the dignity of every human being. This idea of loving our neighbor is one that we strive to live out. This idea of loving our neighbor is more than being polite or being tolerant. It's more than sending a card to celebrate a milestone. Loving neighbor is about living lives that support and lift up those around us. Loving neighbor is about looking out for one another, striving to create a world in which all of us have access to the abundant life that we believe God calls us to through Jesus Christ. Loving neighbor means looking out for our neighbors, means looking out for their safety, means working for their thriving and their flourishing. When I was growing up, I used to stand in the floorboard of my mom's Ford Fairlane and look over her shoulder as she drove. I remember as a child when seatbelt laws became a thing. I remember the hot debates. I remember the conversations about how people should be able to decide whether or not they want to wear a seatbelt, that this kind of law was an impingement on personal liberty, a limitation of one's freedom. I remember those conversations and discussions. I also remember that it wasn't until the federal government tied highway funding to seatbelt laws that most states got on board, because that's how things work. But I look at the progress we've made in terms of auto safety. We've had advances in seatbelts. We've had advances in child safety seats. Our cars have added things like airbags because we want to make automobiles safer. And while there are still too many car-related fatalities in our world, as a society, we have worked to make our cars safer. We've worked to put protections in place so that people might be safe. It is this kind of understanding that informs what it means for me to love neighbor. And that is the understanding that I would like us to bring around issues of gun safety. I know talking about guns in Colorado is a hot button topic. I know that there will be people who write me off immediately, but I want to invite all of us to a conversation couched in what it means to love our neighbor. I don't want our conversations to be about whether you or I should own a gun, or whether owning a gun makes you a good person or a bad person. I want our conversations to be about how we keep one another safe. Every Coloradan should be able to feel safe at the grocery store. Every Coloradan should be able to feel safe sending their children to school or going to a movie theater. Every Coloradan deserves the opportunity to live the fullness of their life safely. Which is why I am asking your support of two initiatives before our Colorado State Legislature. One is HB 21-1106 about the safe storage of firearms. This initiative is about keeping firearms out of the hands of children. It is about keeping firearms out of the hands of those who might hurt themselves or others. The other initiative is SB 21078 about the mandatory reporting of lost and stolen firearms. These initiatives are not about taking away people's freedoms. These initiatives are not about limiting one's liberty. They are about loving our neighbor. They are about keeping people safe. I urge the Colorado State Legislature to take up these initiatives, and I invite you to open yourselves to being part of honest, intentional, perhaps even difficult conversations around what it means to love neighbor. How you and I are called to offer this opportunity of abundant life to everyone. How we are called to keep one another safe, to protect our spaces so that we all have the opportunity to go about our lives without fear. There is much in this world about which we may disagree. But if we are focused on loving one another, truly loving our neighbors as we love ourselves, we can be intentional, we can be gracious, and we can help protect one another.